Hey WealthLab 7 users, Glitch here. Today we're going to talk about what's new in WealthLab 7 build 31. There's quite a bit in this version, so let's get started. The first thing I want to cover is a new feature request that we implemented for optimizations. So let's open up a strategy that we can optimize. Go to our strategy settings, click the optimize button. I want to change my backtest data set here to my little Yahoo data set with a handful of symbols. And our optimization is, I'm going to hit 800 permutations here with an exhaustive optimization. So let's start our optimization. Downloading the data, beginning to optimize. Here we can see our time remaining. If you're very observant, you'll notice a little something different here. We have the tabular view tab visible now. We also have this new checkbox, interim updates. If I check this, it'll switch me over to the tabular view, and it will, roughly every 5 seconds, it will show me the interim results of the optimization. However, you'll notice that it does incur a little bit of a performance hit here. Things, may get a little bit sluggish. So therefore, we recommend that you uncheck that to allow the optimization to continue without the requirement of doing these interim updates. You can check the interim updates periodically if you really want to see, how things are proceeding, but once you get a good look, turn it back off, let the optimization resume normally. So that is the interim update capability. So you can see how the optimization is progressing without having to wait until it's completely finished. Next, we have another feature request that we implemented that's also related to optimizations, but this is some changes to the parameter class in WealthLab. If we go back and take a look at that strategy that we just optimized, let's take a look at the parameters here. So we can see we have 3 parameters. Each parameter has a start value, a stop value, and an increment. And these 3 properties determine the number of permutations in that parameter. So with a start of 0.5, a stop of 4, and an increment of 0.5, we can see now with this new values exposed here in build 31, you can see that this parameter has 8 permutations, and we even list here each of the permutations. So likewise, the next 2 parameters have a start of 1, a stop of 10 with an increment of 1. So we have the values 1 through 10 with 10 permutations. So each of these parameters is defined in the strategy in the constructor for a code-based strategy. You can also define parameters in a building block strategy, but this is how they're done in a code-based strategy. In the constructor, you call this add parameter method, and you give it a parameter name, a parameter type, and then a default value and a start, stop, and increment. So let's take a look at our quick ref here and go to the parameter class, because what this add parameter method is doing is it's returning an instance of the wealthlab.core.parameter class. So here's the parameter class documented. We've added 3 new methods to the parameter class that allow you to establish nonlinear parameter ranges for your parameters. The first method is assign explicit values. So if you call this method on a parameter, it will assign explicit values to that parameter based on what you put in the parameters of this method. So there's two versions here. The first, you can pass a list or an array of values, floating point double values. And the second, you can explicitly put in the parentheses the values that you want that parameter to assume. So let's open up the example code here, which will open it up in WealthLab 7 and automatically run that code. Let's go back to the editor and see what it's doing. So in the constructor, we're doing our add parameter like normal. We are capturing the instance of that parameter here in this p variable. And then we're saying p assign explicit values. And we are assigning the values 10, 20, 50, 100, and 200. So next in our initialize method, we're obtaining that parameter instance by using the parameters property and getting the index 0, which is the first parameter. And then we're using this new property here, values description. So what values description does is creates a string containing all of the parameter values in that parameter, and we're plotting that on the chart. So if I go back to the chart, we'll see here, very similar to what we saw in this optimized view here. You know, this values column is using that same values description to get these values here. You can see these now printed on the chart, but it's not just a 10-step range of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It's whatever the values we put here in these parentheses. So it's actually 10, 20, 50, 100, and 200. So with this, you can have a parameter adapt any values you choose, and that's what will then go into the optimization when you optimize with that parameter. The next method is assign percentage value. So let's open up the code for that. What this method does is it takes the start and end range, in this case 10 and 1000, and it creates parameter values based on a percentage increase. So here we're saying 20%. So the first parameter value will be 10. The next parameter value will be 20% higher than that. So it'll be 12 and so forth. So let's look at our chart. And sure enough, we have 10, 12, 14, 17, 21, increasing by 20% each time. So with this method, you can obtain logarithmic parameter ranges for your optimizations. The last method here that we have provided is assign Fibonacci values. So similar to the previous percentage, this method will take your start and end range and assign whatever Fibonacci numbers fall within that range. So here we have a range of 10 to 10,000. And the Fibonacci numbers that fall within that range are 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, all the way up to 67, 65. So you can add Fibonacci numbers to your parameter range if so desired. So that is the nonlinear parameter range. So next, let's look at another feature request implemented. And this is the ability to lock a strategy. So when I open my strategy window here, we see a new lock button, or an unlock button in this case. Your strategy will come out typically unlocked. You can then go in and lock the strategy, which means you'll still be able to make changes, but you won't be able to save the changes. You can still clone the strategy or save it as another strategy, but this is a way to lock a strategy so you'll be safe in terms of making changes to that strategy. We can see like a new lock icon here too to let you easily see which strategies you've locked. The last feature I want to cover here is a new chart preference. And let me draw a couple of lines on this chart to illustrate that best. Just kind of draw a couple of 1 pixel wide trend lines here. So you'll notice how smooth these lines look. You may have seen in Wealth Lab 7 before, these lines like kind of look a little blocky. The reason they look smooth here is because of this new chart preference here at the bottom, anti-alias. So I have this enabled for my chart. If I turn this off, you'll see the lines kind of resume their previous kind of pixelated style. So you can now control whether the charts in Wealth Lab are anti-aliased or not. If you do anti-alias the chart, the candlesticks and bars of your chart, may appear a little bit blurrier, so you may not like that. However, your lines may appear smoother, so there is a trade-off there, but now you can control that at the level of your chart preferences. Anti-alias off, which is the default, or on. So there you have it. There's actually quite a bit more in build 31, so check the change log for that. But that's all I want to cover in this video. That's it for now, folks. Thanks again, and see you on the forum.